everyone, and welcome to the 80th episode of Dragon Quest Slime Time, a Dragon's Den podcast. This is your host, Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch. Hey, Pendy. I see we have the legendary Woodus, the creator of the Dragon's Den, here with us today. What's the occasion?
Today, we are going to talk about our first impressions of the new Dragon Quest game, Infinity Smash.
Don't you mean Infinity Strash?
That's what I said, isn't it? Infinity Slash.
Man, I've heard this. I've heard about this on multiple podcasts. He's notorious for getting names wrong. It's Infinity Strash, Pendy. Come on. Infinity Strash.
Boil 'em, Infinity Mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
You need to spend more time in the Temple of Recollection, my dude.
I am itching to play this game. Infinity Rash. Wait, no, that can't be right. Infinity Crash. No, that's not it. Sometimes Trash. No. Infinity
No. You're done. As mentioned before, we're going to be talking about Infinity Strash, Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai, the video game adaptation of the Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai anime and manga. Infinity Strash just launched around the world on consoles and PC on September 28th.
Correct. First, we're going to go into the meat of the game, the gameplay. So in the gameplay, there's two big modes in the game, at least before you beat it. There's the story mode and the Temple of Recollection. So we'll start with the story mode. Basically, it's mission based. So you have different missions that you go through and different chapters. And each mission can be a story mission where it's just straight up nothing but cutscenes and it's talking about what's going on in the story. And it's following along with Dai. It follows the manga and the anime, and it follows that storyline. And there's also going to be missions where you actually fight. And these are good. It's going to have a little bit of story, some cutscenes, and then you get into the fight. It could be a boss battle, or it could be a fight where you're exploring around and you're fighting different various enemies, slimes and drakis and whatnot, and lots of different enemies after that. There's even free mode boards where there comes a little scenario will pop up where it's like a free mode, has nothing to do with the story, but it says like, hey, so-and-so is running into this and you need to help him out. And you fight a bunch of monsters and do it that way. So I thought that when it comes to this game, a lot of people complain that there's just way too much story cutscenes in this. And I don't think there's too much story cutscenes in this, but I think it doesn't get broken up enough by enough fights. There's just not enough fighting in this game that breaks up the constant story modes. And then you've got like the first section of the game, which is a whole bunch of story all at once. And it breezes over like the first time that Dai is in they show Dai in Dermline Island with his little monster pals. And they show him like fighting the evil scorpion or fighting the killer machine. And I just think that's a missed opportunity that you don't actually get to fight those things. It just kind of glosses it over and then goes on to the next thing. And you don't actually fight until Yvonne uses the spell Puff and turns into a dragon. That's the first fight. The first fight in the main story that you do. It opens a game where you actually fight against Baron. And that's kind of the interesting way that they present the story, which is different from the way the manga and the anime did it. So it starts out with you're fighting Baron and he takes away your memories. And that's like part of the whole concept of the game is that you're gaining your memories back and you're fighting and seeing these different scenarios as you gain these memories is kind of the whole concept of the game, like the way how they do it. So I'm interested to see so once you actually get to the part of the story where you do get your memories back, because the story goes through episode 41 of the anime, which is well beyond that. I'm wondering how the game runs after that, because then at that point you will actually have your memories back. Paul, what do you think of that part of the game?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I bet you're glad to take a breath now. Yeah, so, I mean, you hit on a lot of the same feelings that I have. I think it is admirable to want to basically tell the story of all 41 of those episodes individually, or basically individually. I mean, like, there's more stuff in it than you would expect. I think a traditional adaptation would pick, like, some high points from the overall storyline and just, like, completely leave out other things that are less important. But this one, even if the thing's less important, you're probably going to get like a 7-minute video of it or a 9-minute video. It's kind of a for better or worse thing. If you want to enjoy a condensed version of the Dai storyline with all the English dub voice acting and everything, then it does that. And that's unique. And that's not a terrible thing. Like my partner, she quite enjoys that. And I don't mind. But I think probably for mainstream audiences, it would have been better if they had done more of a just compressed the high points approach and just streamlined it some. But then, like you said, they also miss potentials for gameplay and battles. Like, we don't get to fight the imposter heroes at the start of the story. Why don't we get to do that? You know, why can't we run around on Durham Island and fight those guys? That would be a really fun first level, very natural, and it's just not in the game. It doesn't. So to me, it's like in the planning stages, the scale got a little bit messed up or something. Maybe they initially intended to have more things like that, but leaving out especially those beginning key moments that anybody who has watched Die would be familiar with. I think they should have made sure those parts were interactive, all of them. But you know, I still like what there is. Like, just because it misses some opportunities doesn't mean that the story that's there is really cool. And by the way, we should mention, even though the videos are very long, like they're like slideshow style videos, but fully voice acted, they're really long. And so the game, if you don't skip anything, is a little less than streaming friendly, I would say. Because like, if you're watching somebody stream the game, you may not want to just watch long cinematics on Twitch or something, but you can skip those things. You know, you can just push start and skip them. So if you're not feeling like enjoying that much story in a play session, you can just go back to the story parts later. So it's not like the game is, you know, it's not like they're unskippable. If they're unskippable, it would be unforgivable, but they are. So to me, it's fine.
That's a good point, because you can just press one button and then boom, you can skip it. It's like a lot of games that I've seen in the past, especially, I don't know, PlayStation 2 days or something like that. You couldn't skip it the first time that you saw it. Like, if you came to the story cutscene again, you could skip it, but like, it was the first time it was presented to you in the game, then you were stuck and you had to watch it at least once. This game, you can just skip it, period. If you are already familiar with the story of Die, or you just don't even care, you can just skip the whole thing and then you're good to go.
So in that respect, if you want to focus more on the gameplay, then just skip some of the story. But if you want the full experience, then wow, they give you quite a lot of story, more than a normal game adaptation would.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. And it's just that even though they do a good job of that, and it is still slightly condensed, I just wish they would put in some more fights where opportunities arose. Because I'm thinking again of two occasions, like once you get into the Hyunko missions, like when you first get into the Hyunko missions, there's a whole bunch of story in the beginning, and there's that one scene where you first have to fight the skeletons, and Hyunko comes in and saves you and kind of pretends he's a good guy. Like, they could have inserted a little fight scene with skeletons, you know, in between those two story beats, but there's like, nope, we got to keep going. And then like at the end of, I want to say the end of chapter 4 going into chapter 5, which is where I'm at, there's like, I think there's like 3 or 4 story missions in a row. Like, that's a bit much. Hey, Woodus, what do you think of the gameplay, especially when it comes to the story mode?
I can see both points. I will say, first starting out the game, it gave me nasty flashbacks of Dragon Warrior 7 on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I was like, when am I going to get to have a battle here?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you on even the Scorpion, the Killing Machine, or like you said, fighting the fake heroes, or even on the ship when they use a gulp and gush. That would have been interesting to have brought in somehow. And I agree with the battles too, even when they're doing the little Indiana Jones dotted line between points. Why not throw a battle in midway instead of they have something you have to go select, or actually be able to travel between the points somehow?
There are some points where they throw in a bunch of free missions.
Yeah.
But even then, it could have been more.
Yeah. And like you said, even breaking up some of the story points, or, you have 5 story points in a row and then a battle, and then you move the next one, it's another couple story points and then a battle. There would have been some way to break it up just a little bit more. How did you guys like the way the story was presented as like still voice acted stills versus an actual clip?
See, I'm fine with that. And I do appreciate that they did break that up with like actual 3D.
Yeah, the occasional 3D cinematics are very cool.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, how everything looks when it comes to that. But and then something that we didn't mention with the gameplay as well is just the actual like how to battle kind of deal. So you have like different attacks. You have a regular attack, and you can an alternate regular attack, which I finally learned like probably not until like chapter 2 or chapter 3, like how to do that effectively, where I kind of like slowly hit the first 2 attack buttons, and then I saw that little flash and it brings out their special alternate attack, which is fun. And then they have like different skills. So there's 3 skill slots and a coup de grace. And then those you're going to learn lots of skills, and you're going to learn multiple coup de grace as you go into the story. And as you go into the story, that's when you unlock a lot of those. And I thought it was very fun that you get wide variety of skills and coup de grace that are from the anime or the manga itself, and I thought that was really cool. What did you guys think of like the actually trying to battle enemies and stuff?
I realize I suck at real-time battling.
I saw you mentioned that before.
Are you playing on the normal difficulty or easy?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so there's the 2 difficulty levels that it prompts you when you start the game. There's, I think it's called storyteller or storytelling mode, which is like the easy mode, and then there's adventurer mode, which is like the normal mode. And supposedly when you beat the game, there's going to be like a super hard difficulty or expert difficulty where you can go back and do special missions that way too.
You were talking about the alternate attack. I know it looks different. Does it attack any different? I haven't been able to tell in using it.
I think it does more damage as far as I can tell.
It seems to, yeah.
And then some of them are very effective in doing other things. So like especially when Mam does hers, like she will like wind up and it takes her a minute before she actually unleashes it, but it'll actually knock enemies down, which will not happen with her other normal attack.
Yeah, that's part of my problem is why I suck with this kind of game anyway. I just want to rush in and attack and not dodge or parry, and that's probably why I never found that second mode until I saw you post about it.
Yeah, it was a game changer for me because I was able to do more things once I actually bothered to figure it out.
Because you said it was basically 2 slow strikes and then you wait for a flash and then a third strike, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I did it. You can kind of speed it up, but that's how I was able to master it, was just kind of slowly do the first couple attacks and then, oh, there's a flash, boom, and then I could do the third alternate attack.
Flash, not strash?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. The timing reminds me of Phantasy Star Online and other games in that series because they had a similar timing system. So it, like I feel like the timing window could be a little more flexible for the getting the right hits, but it's nice when you pull off that correct third hit.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's also nice when you can do that parry just right. I'm trying to learn how to parry more, especially with boss fights. Like if you can parry at the right time, that will stagger them a little bit, and you can get in some free hits. And it'll also give you kind of a reward when you like dodge correctly. Sometimes it'll kind of pause a little bit, and then you can get in some hits sometimes. So those are both very good to do, especially the parry. But that's like for me, yeah, I'm not much of an action RPG guy either, so it's difficult for me.
Did you think Dragon Quest Heroes games were hard?
No, because they were more Muso, where it was just like you could just slaughter everybody pretty easily, except for the bosses. It was a little bit different than this because the enemies were a little bit easier to take down in the Muso type Dragon Quest Heroes games, in my opinion.
Yeah, even the free range battle areas are more like that Muso style than the boss battles. And I've played through most of Elden Ring, and I was terrible at that. And my kids were beating it at like level 50, and I think I'm at 130 and haven't beaten it yet. So,
oh, you know what enemies I hate that were just absolutely killing me in a different area that we'll talk about here in a minute was those, I forget what they're called, but those mushroom guys that can poison you. They can, if you've ever faced them, they can actually like they slowly fly across the screen, and if there's like a bunch of them doing it at the same time, it can really knock you down.
I got so poisoned from those guys. It's a morphine mushroom, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, you can get poisoned from them too, on top of everything else, so it can be a big pain.
That's an interesting mechanic to deal with. So I just wanted to say, as far as difficulty goes, one thing that you can do that everybody might not automatically think of is you can farm levels. You can stop and just replay levels and get more experience and stuff like that. And I don't know how necessary that is, but I like to play games like that. So instead of just going as far as I can, I'm stopping and building up a little bit, and I just feel like that'll make the boss battles a bit easier.
Yes, and I noticed that the levels actually have a recommendation for what level your party should be or your person should be for whatever you're tackling. I noticed that recently.
That's a good thing too.
So that helps out.
Say the next section we talk about, I use that as kind of my leveling, or what we're going to talk about next is that instead of going back and playing stages themselves.
Oh yeah, I was just about to get into that because the other way to really build up your character is to build up your bond memories. And your bond memories, you can get some of them through the story mode, but a lot of them you're going to get through our next section, which is the Temple of Recollection. The Temple of Recollection is a mode that you're going to get into maybe 7 or 8 missions into the game. And Paul, what do you want to explain the Temple of Recollection for the folks?
The Temple of Recollection? I don't remember that. But okay, this mode, it's like a sort of a roguelike mode, or you, like you said, you unlock it eventually, and then you go into this temple, which is operated by the Keeper of Memories, which is a new character of sorts invented just for the game. It's like the door of the temple, and it talks to you. And the purpose of the mode is to build up your bond memories, which are like, important equipable items. And you go into this temple, you beat a level, and then you're given a choice of two different doors to go through, which is quite similar to the survival modes in some recent games like Turtles Shredder's Revenge and Streets of Rage 4, because those have the same thing where you pick from two rewards. And here you're picking between, like, do you want to build up your attack? Do you want to build up your health? Things like that. And we should note that character levels, it's just for that run. Like, your characters start at level 1. So the persistent element is which bond memories you have equipped on them, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So you'll save your bond memories that you collect from doing the run, including duplicates, which duplicates are how you build up your bond memories. And then you'll save those memory crystals, and those memory crystals you'll use for buying items that are in the run, which are only for the run, or for buying more bond memories. Sometimes that will be an option, or that's part of the currency that you have to use to upgrade your bond memories as well.
Right on. So it's fun. It reminds me of the multiplayer dungeons in Dragon Quest Heroes 2. And note that this game, including Temple of Recollection, is not multiplayer at all, which is a missed opportunity, because I think at least Temple of Recollection could have been.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're in a room, and you fight a group of enemies, and then you choose between your two exits, and then you go on, and you have to beat a certain number of levels, and then you can choose to go farther into the temple or to cash out and keep your rewards, because if you die, you don't get to keep anything, do you?
No. You only keep your memory crystals. So the memory crystals you build up, you can keep those, but everything else is wiped out.
Gotcha. So that's a big risk. Like, have you actually died when you're going through this yet?
Yes.
Not me. I'm too chicken. I bail out too easy.
Yeah, I'm chicken as well.
I went too hard once, and because so it's built up into like different layers, and each layer has like 4 to 5 floors or something like that. And I went down to like layer 4, layer 5 at the time, and I died and I lost everything. And I was pissed off because you get certain bonuses for finding enough bond memories and doing certain scenarios. And one of the things is, like, for example, the game's, like I said, split up into chapters. So one of the things you can do is find all chapter 1 bond memories. And if you do that, everybody in your party gets like plus 50 HP or something like that. And I had actually finally found that 15th chapter 1 bond memory, but I died, and then I lost it, and I have not gotten it back since all the runs that I've done.
Well, that's
so that
not good.
Frustrating.
Yeah, bummer.
So you do have to be careful of not being too aggressive.
Sounds like you flew too close to the sun, Icarus.
I did. Woodus, what do you think of this temple?
I've never played a roguelike game, so I kind of like this element of it. I agree. Like I said, I'm a pretty chicken. I'll get to the end of one level, or what do they call it? Level? Layer. I knew it was an L word. And like, do I go one more? Do I not? Nah, I'll just leave. I've just finally now gotten through the silver layer, because isn't it like bronze, silver, and then fire's the third level?
Oh, it's like, yeah, something like that, because like one of them looks like a prison, one of them looks like fire and ice.
Yeah, and so I've been bailing out pretty quick, and it's been good. I've completed quite a few of the bond resonance list that you were talking about, where you had to collect so much of each memories or whatever. It kind of reminds me of the mobile game when it was around. You'd collect things like that, and it would help your whole team. Mm-hmm. And so I've been able to get quite a few of those, but I've been spamming this to try and build up my levels more than, like I said, we're playing the actual free or the boss battles, and it's seemed to be working pretty well, because I've got max 30 HP, attack plus 15 for everybody, things like that, by going through multiple times. And you can also enhance your skills and spells in here by paying cash too, and I forgot to do that for like the first half of the game. Like, I'm still, everything's at level 1 for Kafriz and all that stuff, so that helps when I remember that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because like when you upgrade your skills and your spells in that temple, because it has that option where you can do all of that, it does cost gold to do that, but it costs like not a lot of gold. I'm sitting at like, I don't know, 15,000 gold or something like that, and there's nothing to spend it on, because upgrade a skill, it's like, hey, it's 750 gold. It's like, okay, that's like barely anything. I'm wondering if there's something later on that you can actually spend gold on, more gold on.
I think it'll get more expensive eventually.
I'm guessing that too. It goes up exponentially. It'd be my last. Well, let's see. Level 10, I'm looking at Earth Slash at level 10 is still only 2,500.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at 28,000.
Wow.
I do like going through, though, when if you get lucky and can pull a couple levels that have a metal slime and you can kill it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You go up like 6-7 levels at a time. That makes for a big help going through.
Yeah, and it's completely random. Like we said, it's a roguelike type scenario. So what enemies you fight are going to be random. What choices of floors that you get are going to be random. Sometimes there's going to be like a treasure chest floor that you can choose. And those are interesting because that's either, I've seen it where it's either 2 chests or 3 or even 3 chests, and you pick one, and it's either going to be a nice reward, a really nice, usually it's like 2 or 3 each of like 1 bond memory is what I've gotten so far in a treasure chest, or it's going to be a mimic and then you have to fight it.
I think I've gotten 5 of those rooms. I've only gotten 1 good chest so far.
Oh no.
I started avoiding them at that point. So what kind of room do you gravitate towards? Do you like go for more attack, more defense, more magic?
Oh, I at first was trying to make a well-rounded party and like, oh, I'll do defense and I'll split it up. And then I've seen some guides where it's like, what, the best way to go about these dungeons is just attack, and overwhelm everything. So now I just do like attack and magic and maybe a little bit of coup de grace and basically ignore defense and just try and make my party, as their attack as overwhelmingly powerful as I can.
Cool. How about now I'm just curious because the way I've been playing through now, like when you get a choice, because you get a choice of 3 upgrades at the end of each.
Yeah.
So do you take the hard points or do you take the percentage? Because it seems like in the calculations I've tried to do in my head, the percentage is never worth it.
Oh, you think so? Because I don't math very well, so I'm like, I don't know which one is better.
Well, I don't either, and you can't look at anybody's stats when you're at that choice screen. So I'm like,
no, you can't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, if I have 200 hit points and I take 3%, that's like what, 1.5 or something like that. But I can give 5 points to Pop or something. I'm better off taking the 5 points, even if it's not who I want it for.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm mathing wrong too, because I'm not strong at math either. But
it's fun to have the choice at least.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and it can be interesting. It can be like something smaller for your whole party, or you can be like, hey, 15 attack for die. And it's like, whoa, that's a lot. Maybe I should do that, and die can be like my little powerhouse or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. So I almost died again in this because I was going to the 7th layer, and in the 7th layer, I think I was confusing what you were talking about, Woodus. I think you were talking about like earlier layers with the bronze and the silver and stuff. But once you get to like layer 5 or layer 6, it becomes like a prison background, and then when you get to layer 7, it's like fire and ice, and it's this cool background of like fire and ice that kind of represents Flazard and his stuff. And I was like, oh, I was doing really well. I was kicking butt. It's like, I'll do another layer. I got this. What I did not realize that the different the more advanced layers will do later on is that they'll actually have booby traps in the stage. Like I don't know if you guys have gotten to Flazard yet or not, but one of the attacks he does is he has this wall of his bits and pieces that will go across the screen, and you have to dodge or get out of the way or block it. And the stage actually has that, where you're not fighting Flazard, you're fighting all these other enemies, and it just produces these wall of Flazard attacks just going across the screen as you run the level. And I was like, my other guys weren't dodging or anything like that, so it almost killed me doing that.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was a nasty level. I was like, oh my god, I was not expecting the level to have random other stuff trying to attack me beyond the regular enemies.
Okay, yeah, I haven't gone into that 3rd grouping of layers yet. I've only been to the end of the 2nd grouping.
Yeah, I had all this confidence, be like, oh, I'm killing all these bosses, I'm killing all these enemies, I got this, not realizing there was going to be a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
But so Temple Recollection, the way I've been playing, I've been using that a lot as well to build up my party. I'll do some of the story, and then I'll do some of the temple, and then I'll do some of the story, and then do some of the temple. If I get my ass kicked in the story, then I'll go back to the temple and build up that way, because every once in a while I'll hit a boss and be like, oh my god, I need to be stronger for this boss, and I'll go into the temple for a little bit, do some layers, and then come back, and then I'll be good to go.
Right on. Like Woodus mentioned, he hadn't played a roguelike, but he finds the this mode appealing, right? And I think that'll apply to maybe a lot of Dragon Quest fans. Like roguelikes are a really fun genre or subgenre, and I'm glad they incorporated it into Dragon Quest in some way, because isn't it like the first one that we know of?
No, so there's the Mystery Dungeon series, which actually has had a lot of Dragon Quest titles more over the Turnico series.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, call me stupid. Yeah, I've played those.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, they're easy to forget because it's been a long time, right?
Well, it's also easy to forget because we only got one of them officially in the West. Like the rest of them have been Japan only.
Yeah,
we got the one Turnico title on the PS1, the Turnico. What was it called?
The Last Hope.
The Last Hope. Yep. And then all the other ones, including the Young Yangus game, we never got.
That's quite a shame.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, because we got the other ones like there's been Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games and Final Fantasy or Chocobo Mystery Dungeon games, these Mystery Dungeon games I believe are all done by the same company, Chunsoft, if I'm remembering right. And some of those people had worked on mainline Dragon Quest games before they split off to do those. But it's been a huge long running series of those different Mystery Dungeon games. I think there's other titles that have been incorporated into it as well, besides the ones I mentioned. But yeah, Dragon Quest has done it as a thing. We just haven't really seen it much in the West. But it's good to see. Make a good point.
Right on.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the graphics and the performance of the game. I played it on the PlayStation 4. Woodus played it on the PlayStation 5, and Paul played it on the Xbox. Woodus, what do you think of how this game performs and the graphics, especially using the powerful PlayStation 5?
I think it looks great. It performs great. I've noticed maybe a few stutters at some of the cutscenes, but I mean, I think even like we were talking earlier, some of the where they're doing the cutscenes and you have that 3D in-game kind of experience of some of the battles. I mean, sad to say, I think some almost look better than some of the ones in the anime.
I agree. Like Flazard, I'll bring up Flazard again. Like he's one of my favorite characters in the story, and to see him in 3D, he just looks fantastic. The fire and the ice going on at the same time. Yeah,
I've had good luck with it. I haven't had any problems. But again, it's most recent system that's out there too, so I got lucky in that sense.
That's good. Yeah, I'm doing the PS4, and even on the PS4, I think it looks great. Like I haven't really had any performance issues whatsoever with the FPS or anything like that, because I compare it to playing the Dragon Quest Monsters demo recently, where that kind of chugged a little bit. And actually, I'll bring that up for for Infinity Strash because it's on the Switch as well, and I saw a review for it on the Switch, and the person who is reviewing on the Switch says that it runs very well on that system as well. So apparently they optimized it pretty well for the Switch on top of that.
And maybe the stuttering I saw, it was at some of the scenes where they're trying to make it look like almost slow motion. So maybe it's just my TV's pretty old too. So maybe it's a problem with my TV and not the game or my receiver. So maybe it's, the refresh rate of that, not so much the performance of the system or the game itself.
Gotcha.
Because in the high action scenes, haven't noticed an issue.
Yeah, like with my PlayStation 4 version, there can be as many enemies on the screen, and people can be doing coup de grace and all their skills and everything all at once, and like I haven't had any slowdown, and everything looks pretty good. And again, just going back to those 3D cutscenes when they switch from the kind of the stills into the 3D, like those 3D cutscenes just look so good with all the different important scenes that they've done with it.
Indeed, they do. Yeah, and I'm playing on Xbox Series X, which is smidgen more powerful than the PlayStation 5,
Is it?
But okay. I have no graphical complaints. It's just a good looking game. It's a good art style, and it's colorful and all those things. And so I'm not surprised that it looks good on everything. Even the Switch, you're going to get less resolution, but still a very good art style, and that counts for a lot.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned this before on the podcast, but they at one point in time they released this kind of demo trailer thing. I think it's the one where they show Dai fighting Crocodile in the castle. And when that released, a lot of people complained in Japan that this looks awful and this looks like a PS2 game and so on and so forth. And they weren't really happy with it. And the Square Enix and the team that made it actually listened to the fans and said, like, you know what? We listened to your reactions, and we're going to take it back to square one, and we're going to redo it. We're going to make it look better. And the the game got delayed because of it. They took an extra 6 months to take it back and polish it. And oh my God, it looks so much better than it did when they first debuted it a couple of times where they were showing it in action. Like they really did a good job of taking what they had and making it look like an absolutely fantastic game. So one thing I don't have any complaints about is how the game looks whatsoever.
Right on. Although having to retool it like that may be one of the things that hurt the scale of the game itself. You know, that might be why we have less levels and fights than we might have expected.
Yeah, that could be true. I'm not sure, but I mean maybe had they put in some more, took some more time and put in some fights, but I mean they delayed it, so maybe they were going to have that much anyways. They were just going to have the game out sooner, but not looking as good, I guess. I don't know.
That's true. It's hard to know.
Yeah. So what about the music? So I'll go first with the music. The music is from the anime, and so if you like the music for the anime, you're going to like the music for the game. Now, when we interviewed Takumi Kasai, who's the producer for the game, they mentioned that there's actually going to be some original music for the games, a couple of original songs, but I haven't run into those yet. So I'm wondering maybe that's a credit song, or maybe when you fight the final boss. I have no idea. I just haven't seen original music yet. I've just seen the anime music. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, no, you're right. I haven't seen that either. Like, it's bound to be in there eventually because there's just more that we haven't experienced yet. But about the music, also, we don't have any of the lyrical songs from the anime that we know of, do we?
No, I haven't seen any of the openings or the endings as well.
Yeah,
hasn't been in the anime.
And that's kind of a small blessing, given that like the English versions of the songs, to me, they're like fairly accurate to the Japanese songs, but especially the closing songs are not as good as the actual Japanese versions. So I don't know, like they'd have to pay a bunch of money for those songs, and a lot of people like me wouldn't even enjoy them very much.
Good point.
What do you think of the music, Woodus?
I've enjoyed it. To me, since I don't know that, I've only watched the Japanese anime. I've, like I said, rewatched the dub. I don't know it as well, but I don't have any problems with it at all. And I mean, I'm terrible at music anyway. I mean, I'll listen to a song from the 80s and finally pick up lyrics of songs I've been listening to for 30 years. So that's just me. It's not distracting anyway, or it's not repetitive in those kinds of bad ways. So I think it fits in well with the game.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm horrible with lyrics. I cannot sing along. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't know. How,
what would be nice? The newer Dai anime doesn't have any real Dragon Quest music. It would be cool if in the game version you also got some of the real music, because the old Dai anime had real Dragon Quest tunes remixed. It'd be so neat if we could get some iconic Dragon Quest music here and there, but I haven't seen that.
No, yeah, it's been strictly music from the anime as far as I can tell. So that would be fun too. Man, especially if they went back and got those older tunes and used those here and there from the old anime with the remixed ones, that would be fun. It'd
be cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Like back from the 90s version of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was never localized for me in the area I grew up in, so I haven't seen the original.
Oh, it wasn't localized for anybody. We just there's a fan translation out there for it, which you can grab, and that's the way that I saw it myself.
Oh, okay. I was thinking some episodes had made it over, but that's my mistake.
No, it's the other anime made it over to the States. The Dragon Quest Able, I think it's called.
Okay.
Or back, when it got localized for us, it was like Dragon Warrior Able or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, that's my mistake there. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, didn't they just call it Dragon Warrior and that's all they called it?
It might have been, but I think it's the actual title is like Able something.
Yeah, it's Able. Sorry, I was thinking both had made it over in some form, rather not just that one.
No, but it did, like the Dai anime actually from the 90s did actually make it out of Japan, just not to the United States for whatever reason. Like in France and Spain and some other territories, it actually did go to those regions, and it actually has kind of a following because of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Lucky them.
I know, right? I would have enjoyed watching the 90s Dai back in the day. I'm sure it probably would have been like the other Dragon Warrior anime where it would have been like at 6 a.m. on a Sunday or something, but
yeah, and probably all cut up, but it still just would have been really cool to experience it.
Yeah. Oh, so something that's also related to localizing the anime would be the voice acting, because not only do we have the English, but we have the Japanese. So, Paul, what do you think of the voice acting in the game, of what you've experienced so far?
Well, I'll tell you. So this game uses the official English voice actors that have been used for the dub of Dai that you can buy on all those different services or watch on Hoopla. And that's a good thing. It's really cool to have that level of accuracy. And I think either they had to do that because they were incorporating so much audio from the show in the lengthy cinematics, or like they got those actors and then they were like, hey, let's tell the story by using cinematics from the show, you know? But either way, you have that authenticity, which is a good thing. But I will point out that the Dai dub is not a top tier dub. It's sort of like medium to slightly low tier, I would say. Some roles are well cast, and other roles, like for instance for Dark King Vern or Bronn.
Hey, Vern!
There you go. Yeah, some of those characters, they just don't sound as good as what you would expect from an average Funimation dub or from like any common English dub. You know, in the modern age, they're better than what this one is, I would say, in general. But you do have some casts. Some characters are really well cast. You know, like Dai's voice has grown on me, and Pop and Mom are both really great, I think. So, you know, it's not a wonderful dub, but it's, you know, it's probably for the best that we have the real voice actors as opposed to generic actors.
What do you think of the voice acting? Do you do the dub or the sub in the game, or?
I'm fine with the voices, but then again, I'm not a huge anime watcher to begin with, and like I said, I haven't gone back and rewatched this with the English dub, but I'm fine with the voices as they are. No real issues, but again, I'm not as experienced as like Paul is with all the different levels that are out there for it. The one thing I did find funny, and I don't know if it's just because I had to battle Flazard so many times, but I'd be battling him, and for some reason, some of his things made me just think of Krusty the Clown. I don't know why. His voice at some points, and I don't know why, but
oh yeah, well, speaking of Flazard,
it's time to die.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Well, speaking of him, that's another thing that aggravates me about the dub is some of the characters' names. You know, they come up with their own new pronunciations of some of the names that are kind of objectively worse. Like, I understand why with Mom you would say ma'am because that's how it's spelled, right? But on the other hand, you have Zaboera in the English dub. He's Zabora, even though it's spelled Zaboera, so it just doesn't make sense to say it that way. You know, and it's not hard to say Zaboera. And then you have, like you said, Flazard. Well, the dub, they say Flazard, and it's like it's a combination of flame and blizzard, right? So the long A sound is actually important to the name, but instead they like decided there was a play on hazard instead, and like that. No, I just don't like those particular changes.
Well, that's the way I said it in my head until you guys started pronouncing it the right way too. So, you know, I grew up in the 80s as a kid, so Dukes of Hazzard was what I watched. So it was Dukes of Flazard, you know.
Oh man, it's that's something that I've always struggled with in Dragon Quest games. Not just this anime, but some of the name changes that they do in some of the games too. I'm not a big fan of. Like, and I've seen this with the Your Story dub where it was the blue-haired wife that's in the Japanese. It's Flora, but in English it's Nera, right? Correct? One of the Dragon Quest V wives.
I think
Nera.
you're right.
Yeah, so they decided to call her Nera for whatever reason. I forget why, but in the actual Japanese it's Flora. And then when you actually watch the Your Story movie, which is about Dragon Quest V, and she shows up like in when you watch it in Japanese with English subtitles, like the English subtitles they seem like they're mostly trying to do a good translation of them, but then they actually still call Flora Nera, even though you can clearly hear the actress or the actors call her Flora. The subtitles would keep saying Nera, 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 which the actors are saying Flora, Flora, Flora. And I'm like, why even bother to do that? I don't understand. Like, if you're doing that for the dub, I get it. That's what the games are like, but to the point where you're going to change it there, that was weird.
Agreed. That is weird. Plus, if you're watching Dragon Quest Your Story, you're suffering enough as it is. So do they have to mess things up beyond that?
I like it. I like the movie, but I get it, especially the ending.
The ending.
But no, before we get into Your Story debate, the voice acting for the Japanese side of it and the English side of it are both pretty good, in my opinion. I've seen both when it comes to the anime, and so far I've been doing the English dub in the game, and that's something that I've really appreciated, that they have brought over the same for the Japanese and for the English side. They've brought over the voice actors that they used for the 2020 anime. So to have the same voice actors in both titles has been really good, and the person who plays Yvonne, who also plays Yunkel, and I think he also plays not Mistfern, but Kilvern. He plays Kilvern as well. He's just like a bunch of voices, and he's got a huge range because sometimes it's hard to tell, who's who. It's like, oh, that's actually the same guy? Okay, neat. But like he does the narration because the Yvonne character does a lot of narration in the game. So thankfully having such a good voice actor for that helps out a lot, and so I've appreciated. Thankfully for Paul, there's not a lot of Dark King Vern, hey Vern, in this game because the story doesn't go that far. There's a little bit of Dark King Vern. He does show up a little bit here and there, but like his main parts don't really show up through the story that they do. But yeah, no, it's been fun listening to the voice acting. I haven't been annoyed by it at all. I think we were doing a live stream with Paul on his Saturday game. Was it called Saturday Game School?
Saturday Game School.
Yeah, Saturday Game School. I was a guest on his Saturday stream when we were doing Infinity Strash, and his wife was talking about how hearing the different coup de grace and different abilities called out over and over again could get annoying. But thankfully, you get a lot of different abilities and a lot of different coup de grace abilities throughout the game, so you're not stuck with Dai saying Infinity Strash like 2,000 times throughout the game, because he'll get like 2 other different coup de grace that you'll have as well.
Yeah, that is a good thing. But it's typical of Japanese games. They love having repetitive voice samples for attacks. I do not understand culturally why they like that, but whatever.
Yeah, I've seen that in games before where like you have a character and he has his attack and it's like Blizzard, and then you get to hear Blizzard, Blizzard, Blizzard for like 50 billion times. And it's like, enough. I don't need to hear you yell Blizzard anymore. This is getting old.
Yeah, and even games like Zelda or something, like you'll hear the same like ha 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 whenever you do your slashes. It's like, does he have to say it every time? Because after a while that gets a bit old, but oh well.
Yeah.
Warcraft was one my wife got after me about on that. When you click on the peasants, okay, yes sir, okay, yes sir. 2 things over and over and over.
That's funny. But yeah, overall, I really enjoy the voice acting for the English dub. It's done by Ocean Studios, I think the name is. It's a studio out of Vancouver in Canada that's been doing voice acting for many decades, actually. And they usually do a really good job. Like one of the better anime that they've done in the past would be like Inuyasha, and that they did a great job with that. So I've loved what they've done for this. Most of the voice acting I like for this. Baran, I think I'm with you there, Paul. With Baran is a little off to me, just maybe a little bit too much. I actually like Dark King Vern, but I'm a little biased because the voice actor who does Dark King Vern does the main bad guy for Inuyasha, Naraku, and so I really like that voice actor. But he does ham it up a little bit with Vern. Like we've joked about this on Tactfully Die, where he'll talk about different characters and he'll just overextend the vowels. He'll be like headlord.
Yeah, you guys brought that up on the last episode. I remember you guys talking about that.
It's just a little bit much sometimes, but overall it's been fun. So I was able to get the DLC for the game. Has anyone else gotten the DLC costumes or anything like that for Infinity Strash?
I did not.
Well, I got the deluxe edition. Is that what you mean? Like the $5 extra version?
Mm-hmm. That has all the costumes and stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like the Dragon Quest 3 hero outfit for Dai. Gotta love that.
Oh yeah, because it's all Dragon Quest 3 and Dragon Quest 4 type costumes, because the anime and manga draw a lot of inspiration from both of those games, because both of those games had come out or were coming out during the middle of its run, the run of the manga and the original anime. So there's a lot of influence from both of those games, especially 3. So that's why there's a lot of costumes that are 3 inspired. We already mentioned the hero costume for Dai. Pop got a wizard costume or mage costume, depending on which translation you're going with. Mam got a cleric or a priest costume, like the really classic Dragon Quest 3 style type, which is really cool. And then Hyunkel got 2, though I've only seen one of them so far. I think he's supposed to have a soldier outfit or warrior outfit, which is like the red armor type outfit from Dragon Quest 3. And then he also has a Pizarro outfit, the classic black and red Pizarro outfit. And that's the one I have equipped with him right now whenever I can use it, because like some of the story mode, you have to go with whatever is canonical to the story. But whenever I get a chance, like I put on that Pizarro outfit for Hyunkel because it's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Are they skin based only, or is there any perks for having those?
As far as I can tell, there's no perks. So I don't know if there's going to be costumes later on that will have any perks, because it kind of shows your stats when you put on the costume. So I'm not sure if there might be bonus costumes later on that will actually have some perks. But no, I haven't seen any of that. Oh, you know what? Something before we go on to the next thing that I forgot to bring up. and I know Paul, you'll agree with me on this one, is that it would have been nice if they had a couple of more character, at least one more character that you could have in your party. And who do you think that would be, Paul?
Well, of course, it needs to be Crocodile.
Yes, I'm disappointed that you don't have Crocodile in your party, because plays a big part of the story in this part of the game. So I'm surprised they didn't incorporate him as a character too.
Yeah, and I mean, he appears in the game, right? They've got the models, so why not just let us play as him?
Now that would be a worthwhile DLC.
Yeah, that's true. I'd actually pay money because he is my favorite character after all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd spend $5-10 just to get him.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I haven't gotten this far in the game yet, but I do appreciate that later on they're going to have the vocation changes for a couple of the characters. So Hyunkel, when he gets the spear, and like Mam, when she changes her vocations, like you'll be able to play as them in those vocations and those different costumes too. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's a good thing for sure.
I assume there'll be a skill set change with that too then. I mean, if Mam goes from her old style to martial artist, I assume that means that some of the skills would change too, right?
Yeah, I would think so. And it'll be interesting to see, like, if you are in the new vocation, can you use skills from the old vocation? Which would be weird because some of them require a gun. So I don't know how that's going to work.
Well, that's why I was asking.
So I don't know. I mean, it might be a situation where you have to switch back and forth into what vocation you prefer, and you kind of run with it. And as much as I like Mam as a martial artist, I don't know, missing that healing that she brings, I don't know if that's going to be worth it or not.
That's true. Will they give her another way to heal, or will it simply be gone? Probably just be gone, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That saved my butt on a few of the Temple of Recollection levels.
Yeah, like I wouldn't take her out of the party for anything just because the healing.
Yeah.
Though now that I'm thinking back to the story, I do remember that even as a martial artist, she still was able to heal to a limited amount. So maybe she will keep some healing abilities as a martial artist. So we'll just have to wait and find out once we get that far in the game.
That'd be great, hopefully.
Yeah.
I know we brought this up earlier. So you're through chapter 5 or you're into chapter 5?
I'm into chapter 5.
Okay, I just started chapter 5, and you said there were 7 chapters that you've seen through other playthroughs? Okay.
Yeah, 7 chapters overall, it looks like. And then once you beat all the chapters and you beat the game, then there's going to be some kind of bonus post-game mode where you can go back to, I don't know, every scenario or certain scenarios, and they have like harder, more difficult missions that you can do with bonus bosses and things like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then, of course, they'll be conquering the Temple of Recollection to see if you can beat all of that. Because I know it doesn't go on for infinity. I've heard from other people that it does actually have an end point to it. There's only so many layers.
Yeah, I'd be curious how far it goes down if there's a section per chapter.
Yeah, and it seems to be that way because there seems to be like a theme to each kind of like group of layers.
Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, because there's like the one that looks like a prison, which I think is supposed to be like the Hyunkel themed layers. And then there's the one that I just ran into that almost kicked my butt, the one with the fire and the ice, which is like a Flazard type theme. So I'm guessing there's probably going to be a theme for each major section of the story, and then it'll end with the Sovereign Rock Castle and Miss Fern, which is going to be the end of the game because it only goes through episodes 41 of the anime.
Okay, and that's the castle episode, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be cool.
So before we leave this wonderful podcast, let's give our overall opinion of what we think of the game so far. So I'll go ahead and start. So I have really enjoyed this game. It's been fun doing the fighting, and the Temple of Recollection has been a lot of fun as well. I've been a little bit too dangerous going into it sometimes, but it's been fun going back and forth between the Temple of Recollection and doing the game. My biggest complaint with the game is not that there's too much story, as a lot of people say. There's just not enough fighting. There should be more scenarios where you actually get to fight enemies throughout the story in the game to cut it up a little bit more here and there. So you're not getting scenarios where I saw like 4 or 5 story missions in a row where it's just ridiculous. But overall, it's a great looking game. It's fun to play. I really love how they incorporate all the different skills and spells that the different characters use in the anime and the manga. The bond memories we didn't mention are actually, they show memories from specific scenes of the manga, which is fun, and they'll play those out, and those are a lot of fun to see as well. So I appreciate a lot of what the game brings to knew the story of Die. I just wish it had more fighting. So I would say, like, so far, for my impressions, like if we were doing like a 10 base scale, I'd say I put it like around like a solid 7 in my opinion. So Paul, will go with you next.
Okay. Well, yeah, at present I'm teetering between a 6 and a 7. I think the more critical standpoint where there's, if you think of it as there just being too much story, but you can skip the story, then that's kind of a 6. But if you're a little bit more optimistic, if you just enjoy what is here, it does have a lot of good stuff, like the equipable bond memories. That's a fun system. You've got the Temple of Recollection, which is genuinely quite enjoyable. And you just have recreations of a lot of cool die moments, even if not as many as there should be. So I don't know. I mean, like it's just a fun game. Like I'm really thankful for it. So there were all these negative Steam reviews, people who were expecting more from the game, and it's like they're expecting kind of a 10 out of 10 game, and they got something less, and so they're just saying like, don't buy this. But to me, as long as you go in understanding that it's a bit of a flawed game, it's still really fun. Like when we were streaming it on Twitch over the weekend on Saturday Game School, like our viewers were into it as much as we were. So I think as long as you have the right attitude for it, that you'll get a ton of fun out of this game.
Yeah, and a lot of people were expecting like a big open world type game, and this is not it. And that's something I personally don't care about. So I'm fine with like a mission based game. Just there needed to be more fighting missions.
I agree.
Do you guys think this is something that would be good for like the general audience, someone who doesn't know anything about Die, has never watched the anime, never read the manga, or would this be more for like the diehards, that the people are like really into Die?
The diehards.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's the perfect way to get into Die would be this game, but probably more set up for diehard fans.
Yeah, I agree. The more you know about, the better off you are. I mean, it is a pretty good snapshot of the overall story, and it might get people more into looking for the full anime as well, though, too. They're like, well, I wonder if there's a little more that happens between some of these scenes or something. I guess since I'm still fairly new to Die, just watching the Japanese version of the anime too, I like that I'm getting the synopsis. I'm definitely going to go back and watch the full dub now after I'm done with this, just to experience the whole thing over again.
Sweet.
Nice.
So that's a good attitude. Yeah, to go into more detail, I think, I don't know, like if you didn't care about Dragon Quest at all and you're just like, okay, I'll just try this game out randomly, then I don't think the game would probably capture your heart, because you'd be like, man, why are these story scenes so long? And it's like the structure of the game is a bit weird, which is why it gets so many complaints, So, but I think you could be someone who's interested in Die, like maybe you've only seen one episode of Die, for instance, but you like Dragon Quest, and then you could play the game and you're getting the snapshots of the story. And I guess in that scenario, it could be a really useful way to just catch up on Die, like to enjoy the game for 10 hours or however many hours, and like, okay, now you understand the first half of the Die anime. So I don't think that, maybe it's not a common scenario, but I don't think it's so bad. But people who are really into Die will hopefully just appreciate just being able to recreate cool moments from it in the game.
I agree.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's good points. Good points.
Yeah, as far as my overall, I'm right there with you guys on right around the 7. I mean, I went into this game pretty blind just because I didn't want to look a lot up about it, because I didn't know what it was going to be and what to expect. So I guess in that sense, I'm happy with how it turned out. I agree there'd be nice if there was a bit more battling, just more random stuff even in between story modes, or even traveling, like when you're taking the boat from one continent to another, you get a couple random battles in there just to mix it up a little bit. Just a few more, but I've been happy with it.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Me too.
Well, thanks everyone for coming on the show. Thank you, Woodus, for being a guest, and thank you, Paul, as always, for being a wonderful co-host.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, dude. I'm glad to be a part of this, and I'm especially thankful for the chance to play the game and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
That's all for this episode of Slime Time. If you're interested in Infinity Strash, you can get it for Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 4 and 5, Switch, and Steam. As for the show the game is based on, The Adventure of Die anime is available with English subtitles on Crunchyroll, or dubbed in English on Hulu, Vudu, the library app Hulu Hoopla, and the Microsoft Store.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't strash your hard-earned gold infinitely when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, or searchable wall sack, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases.
We even have a Slime Time t-shirt you can buy that was designed by our resident artist Dwayne. See the link for it in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastX Twitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids, sometimes even Dragon Quest games.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums or Discord, and the Dragon Questers, Infinity Strash, and Dragon Quest Tact Global Facebook groups.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this possible, including Pendy, Woodus, definitely Woodus for creating the Dragon's Den and all those great things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Goemon, the angel slime with a heart and body of gold.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Dragon Quest Slime Time, sliming off.
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.